Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Samantha Ranatunga, is in the hot seat today to provide some insights into Sri Lanka's oldest business chamber. Then, Nielsen's managing director Sharang Pant discusses the latest LMD Nielsen Business Confidence Survey. And in our final segment, we take a closer look at Sri Lanka's macro outlook with LMD columnist Shiran Fernando. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to the Big Picture Business Program Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. Our guest today is the Managing Director and CEO of CIC Holdings. He's also the head of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. As chairman of the oldest business chamber in Sri Lanka, Samantha Ranatunga oversees a confederation of trade associations, regional and sectoral chambers of commerce and industry, also bilateral business councils and employer organizations in the island. Mr. Ranatunga, welcome and good to have you on Benchmark.
Thank you, Savitri.
If you look at the Ceylon Chamber, what is the role that the Ceylon Chamber plays in the current context?
If you take Ceylon Chamber, as you said at the start, we are the premier and the oldest chamber in Sri Lanka. What we always strive to do is to be relevant to the business community and to the membership, and to be a clear messenger to the policymakers of the issues that are faced by the industry or membership, as well as the general country's interests at heart.
Mr. Ranatunga, if you look at your membership, it's evolving constantly and has been for the last 100 and something years of the Chamber's existence. What are the main issues currently that the members of the Chamber are facing?
As you said, the membership is evolving, and the challenge of any chamber is to remain and stay relevant. So in this context, I think what we have to take a look at is the economic environment around us now, which is fast changing in many fronts. You see there are changes in the political scenario, the economic scenario, which has something to do with the local as well as the global. Then also the trends of digitization, other global trends which are taking place. So the challenge always remains how to balance these areas, how to bring out how it impacts the membership and the people at large, and to see what are the priorities that we need to bring to the decision makers. So it is a constant challenge to look at the relevance and to stay relevant.
So if you look at our economy, which segments do you think, or industries or sectors of the economy, would require the most support or facilitation?
I think it's a mix, because the thing is, at the moment, we take a look at the economy. Of course, you know, the agriculture is a lagging sector, which has 30% of our population. It needs a different type of attention, because it has the biggest socio-political impact in the country. The industry, which was basically playing second fiddle to the service sector, has suddenly overtaken the service sector in the last quarter's results that were just published yesterday. But then the service sector still dominates. So what we have to see is that the thing is, the problems of the three sectors are completely, I think, unrelated to one another. Service sector has challenges of lack of people, lack of trained staff. The manufacturing sector again faces a similar type of problems. Agriculture has its own problems of technology and markets. So what we always try to do is to welcome the membership, to bring out issues, which is basically done through sectoral committees that we have set up, which include stakeholders as well as experts in those areas, and then to see how we can highlight them in the necessary policy making bodies. And I think the credit to the current to the government is now there are a lot of forums in which the business chambers all chambers are given an opportunity and a hearing.
Now, you did say there's somewhat adequate level of engagement with the state. How far does it go though? Is there follow-up? What's the time plan and things like that?
I think that is always will be a challenge because the heartbeat of the private sector is always time is money, because it's capital, either it's bank's capital or shareholder capital or your own capital. So in that context, money, because it's time is money. Now that is not a great pressure on the private sector, on the public sector. So there is always a disconnect. There is always great expectation that some things can be done faster and that we can basically have answers quicker. But again, you have to get used to the patterns. We are having a coalition government. We have to face it. It's a government that we have elected. So that means that it has its own complications of finding solutions to questions. So that is one factor that we have to take into account. But I think with that, always what we can hope for is quicker, more transparent, and more engaging environment where questions are critically analyzed and answered.
Now, as an example, one of the bugbears of the private sector has always been the amount of bureaucracy involved in everything.
Yeah.
And then the fact, like you said, time is money, and somehow things just is slow or just doesn't get done. Has the chamber been successful in lobbying, in getting stuff done at least a tad faster?
It's always, I think, an effort. What we have seen is there is greater engagement, there is capacity to listen on the other side. Converting it into action, as you say, has been a challenge. So this is one area where we have kept on pushing, because I think it's basically something where I think the government also has to understand that sometimes time-bound action is an imperative to the private sector. The issue is, I think we keep on, I think, knocking on the door, always hopeful that things can get better. And also the thing is we have to take into reality the complexities of the way the current governance structure takes place. You have the multiple systems of the provincial councils, then you have issues with the government being in a coalition, which again puts implementation obstacles. So I think in that framework, what we have to keep on doing is I think the private sector has been a very resilient private sector, and I think that is something which has been our hallmark. I think we cannot not rest on our laurels and say that we have done well. We have to keep at it, because it is in the end in our interest, because the private sector has to survive for the country to do better, and we have a great role to play, and we have to keep on engaging the people, however fast or slow they work.
So let me ask you, what is the impact that Budget 2017 has had on business and your members?
I think Budget 2017 again is a budget with a lot of promise. We are still awaiting some of the legislative changes and the reforms that are supposed to come along with it. The implementation dates, there are some issues, and I think as it basically addresses some of the macroeconomic frameworks as well as industry related issues this country has, I think the biggest challenge which we face is the timing and the transparency. When are some of those actions which are there are they going to come into place? The timing is important, because for us to make budgets, we need to know when some of the reforms are going to take place, especially on the taxes. So I think some transparency on those, I think, would help in basically here in looking at the budget more positively. If you take on terms of what the country's problems and issues, I think the budget addressed a lot of it. Yet I think the fact that we have to get to see the time frames of implementation, I think remains still a challenge.
So we will be back to discuss this some more. We're going for a commercial break now, but on the other side, Samantha Ranatunga talks about the pace of technology and innovation by local businesses, the levels of skill in the local market, and also the opportunities in terms of greater trade integration in the region. So stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC. We understand that savings provide for life's special moments. That's why we were the first bank to introduce an incentivized savings scheme, Pathum Vimana. We changed how a nation felt about savings because we believe in banking beyond transactions. HNB, your partner in progress.
You're with Benchmark, the Big Picture Business Program. We are now going to resume our discussion with the Chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Samantha Ranatunga. Mr. Ranatunga, look at technology and how we have adopted technology. Are you satisfied with the pace that technology has been adopted among local businesses?
I think the way technology has come to households, as you would see, I think we have not adapted it adequately in the industry. I think there's a lot of technology which has changed the lifestyles of people, but I think we can do a lot more in the industry. So I think this is an adaptation process which again shows, actually has thrown a challenge to the places like the business chambers, because what is happening is, I think today's innovator is from a different generation to today's business people who have the high capital and high net worth. So one of the challenges I think the chamber is trying to do is how to bring these two parties together in a more meaningful exercise. So I think these are some of the challenges which we are facing at the moment, and I think we have Dr. Hans Vijayasuriya, who is also very much a part of the chamber now as a vice chair. He basically, I think, is going to lead this technological innovation into business in the chamber, and we are very hopeful that with his wide experience, international experience, we'll be able to do justice to it, because we feel that unless we understand, because there's a millennial, because this is a different generation we have to understand, and if we understand that generation and we adopt technologies faster, we can be more competitive. And this is one area, I think, the fact that we still have the classical business, which is basically which has a generation gap from the real technology adapters and technology providers and the technological innovators. So we have to break that, and I think that is not going to come by them coming to us. The millennial kids are not going to come to us. We have to create environments that they can enjoy and they get attracted to be a part of the business. And as you can see, the very few businesses have benefited from that.
You know, another big challenge that our industries face is having the adequate skill levels to make sure their businesses move forward. How do you rate our local skill levels?
I think talent-wise, I think we do have. What we don't have is adequate amount of people in different talent categories. The issue is that people develop skills, and then there is certain social pressures that come with the skills, that they want to see they will be more comfortable working overseas than working in Sri Lanka. So certain skill levels are basically causing main gaps, and I think case of point, agriculture, mechanization of agriculture is a challenge. Construction industry has a massive challenge today, that there is not enough adequate skilled workers. So unless we, and also in the specialized areas, which are basically taking away the lot of our youth who get trained into much more lucrative markets. So in this context, I think we have to look at this entire labor market in a, I think, a very much more, I would say, in a responsible manner.
Would the private sector be lobbying for this, where as a collective you will be able to do something?
We have been actually doing, a lot of lobbying, especially I think the sectors which have been impacted, like the construction sector. They have a huge deficit today, and then the government also is looking at, what are the kind of short-term solutions that we can bring in the next 1 or 2 years, and for that, I think we have to look at our immigration law, and then also create this fact that the protectionism that we want to create for our own labor markets is sometimes is a falsehood. We have to bring people, use them on strictly legal terms, and then let them go. Not to see that they colonize this country, but that's a decision that we can do through the law and order system. So which is something we have to take a look at if we had to be competitive in certain sectors.
So looking at trade in general, what opportunities do you see for Sri Lanka in improving and developing trade in the region, looking at greater integration?
I think we, because we have, for millennia, we are a country which has been trading. We have benefited from the fact that we have been in this unique location as a nation, island nation. We have been close to India, and which has basically meant that it has been a great entry port, even at a stepping stone for investment, even by the time that we were colonized. So it's nothing new. So we have basically leveraged our position of geographic position even in the past. So I think the fact that we are in a market which is over about nearly about 2 billion people is just next door. We have to be looking openly with, I think, an open mindset towards what opportunities there are through free trade.
Now that open mindset is what seems to be a little shaky.
Yeah, I think it has much to do with the understanding of the situation, and I think the more dialogue you have, the more apprehensions that you manage to basically clear. I think the fact is something which we need to do. And I think it's pretty much work in progress, because I think nowadays with the business chambers as well as with the industry on the free trade agreements, there is a dialogue which goes on. We have been having constant dialogue on certain areas. We are very clear on certain areas. We are not so clear on some other areas, and there is some representation of the private sector on the negotiating teams today, and in that context I think there is some participation. I think it will be an evolving process, because I think none of these things are going to turn right overnight, but it's basically working in the correct direction constantly. I think will bear results. So I think even the building of mutual confidence is going to take time.
Thank you very much. It's been
Pleasure.
interesting talking to you.
Thank you.
We've been discussing the dynamics of business, trade and commerce with the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Samantha Ranatunga. On the other side, please wait for more, because we have Anushan Selbaraja.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Nearly 60% of all businesses in our country are SMEs. Some of our most growth-oriented financial solutions have been customized to serve this sector. That's why we have invested over 500 billion rupees to support the backbone of our economy. Because we believe in banking beyond transactions. HNB, your partner in progress.
Hello and welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Now for a closer look at the latest on the LMD Nielsen Business Confidence Index, joining me is the Managing Director of Nielsen, Sharang Pan. Welcome back to the show, Sharang. Now just to start off with, the BCI has come to an abrupt halt, so to speak. Now what are the sensitivities behind this?
Yeah, Anushan. So 2017 actually started on a good note. We saw the BCI moving up in Jan as well as in Feb. It was backed by some anticipation, expectation, some good news on the policy front or the economy growth as well. But you're right, it's come to a halt now. The latest BCI in Feb stands at 112. If you look at it, it's actually lower than 117, which was the closing number in 2016. Now, what we feel is while the IMF or World Bank is commending the job done by the Sri Lankan government on fiscal consolidation, the other policies, there are newer concerns coming up. It's the inflation which is being driven by the drought conditions in the country. Plus, we have the interest rates going up, and then there's anxiety of the tax changes which will be announced from April. So that's bringing in anxiety, and we feel that's what is driving the BCI on the lower side now. Compared to that, if you look at the consumer confidence, again towards the end of last year we saw it moving up, though the business confidence was going down. That's what we see usually in other markets as well. There is a lag between how business confidence moves as well as how consumer confidence moves. In the latest quarter in 2017, we see the stress on consumer confidence too. So from the closing number of 65 in 2016, now the consumer confidence stands at 59. The reasons we feel again are to do with taxes, with inflation, which is putting pressure on consumption, and we see that kind of a pressure on month-on-month consumption growths in the FMCG categories that we track on a regular basis.
Where do respondents stand in terms of our economy?
Yeah, so the negative aspects are, I think negative sentiments are creeping in. About 1 in 3 or 37% of the respondents feel that the economy will probably deteriorate in the next 12 months. It's just about 27%, that number was about 27% in Feb, so it's moving on the upper side. Again, the concerns are around inflation, the cost of doing business because of the interest rates, the drought, which will impact the economy is what the feeling is.
Right. What are their views on our business and investment prospects then?
Yeah, so about half the respondents, or 53% to be exact, don't see their business condition improving in 2017. They feel that it will be about the same, remain stable, not a significant growth. And if you look at the short-term expectation, only about 24% of the respondents feel it will be a good quarter. 3 in 4 or 75% feel it will be a challenge given the drought condition impacting rural consumption largely. So reasons given, again, the same: VAT-induced taxes, drought-induced inflation, interest rates, which are putting pressure on the consumption.
Thank you very much for joining us, Sharang.
Pleasure. Thanks.
That was the Managing Director of Nielsen, Sharang Pan. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Gami Pubudua, our microfinance offering, makes it possible for the youth of this country who have a viable business plan but lack the funds to realize their dreams. We are committed to grassroots level entrepreneur development because we believe in banking beyond transactions. HNB, your partner in progress.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Anushan Selvarajan. Now for a closer look at the latest on the economy. Joining me is economist and LMB columnist Shiran Fernando. Welcome back, Shiran. Now, Colombo's got there's a new base for inflation. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a welcome move, I think, because the change was to the Colombo Consumer Price Index, which was earlier going under 2006-2007 base, and now they revised it to 2013. It's a welcome move because you had an outdated index which had expenditure patterns even before 2010, prior to the end of the civil conflict. So a lot of things have changed since then. So now it's more reflective, and now it's going hand in hand with the national index, which is also in the 2013 base. So a lot of good things there in that sense, and also we're moving towards this inflation targeting framework, which uses basically a specific medium-term target for inflation in the future for monetary policy to be set. So now, if we were to use the old index, it would be kind of a bit misleading because it's not really reflective of what's going on. So good changes in that direction. Few things have been included. For example, you've had things like alcohol and beverage, which were not included in the earlier index, having somewhat of a weightage now. And overall, food has declined from about 42% to about 28% in the new index. And that's reflective of the household survey that they did in 2012. So a lot of the trends seem to be that this is more representative. And what you'll probably see right now is or moving forward is because there's less weightage towards food, it will be less determined what happens with food supply issues. So right now we're in the midst of a drought and there's a lot of concern with regards to food supply amongst other things. And right now you'll probably see inflation edging up 6-7% in the next few months as well.
Now it's 4 months down the line, Shiran, in 2017. Now, what have been the pros and cons so far?
In terms of a lot of policy issues, I think at the start of the year, a lot of hype around the FDIs, and then it not being as what it was being painted, so a lot of confusion there. So that policy uncertainty issue that the private sector and a lot of people start talking about is still continued into this year. There's still a lot of tax uncertainty, a lot of issues with regards to what the taxes will be from April, so that hasn't been cleared as yet. The tax code, certain impacts on industries like the unit trust industry. So a lot of concerns on that. Some of the pros have been, I think, the fact that now you sort of see a realistic chance of getting GSP Plus back, possibly in the second half. That seems to be more of a reality, and you can probably assign a higher probability to it happening. So that's a good thing.
Where do you think or where do you hope the economy will head in the second half of the year?
What I hope it'll move towards is a period of stability, in particular in the second half, so that businesses are ready to invest and things go on like that. But there are a few risks in that. The IMF will be introducing the new Inland Revenue Act along with the Treasury. So the proper implementation of that remains to be seen, and whether that will have an impact on businesses. Then there are obviously global risks that you can't take account of. So we'll continue to remain vulnerable in that aspect. But overall, I think if we do see FDI numbers coming in as we expect it to, then you could see maybe the currency stabilizing at these levels, and possibly even interest rates coming off in the second half of the year. But there's a lot of risk factors right now, which, if there's a change in sentiment and if the numbers go in the correct way, we could see a period of stability.
Thank you very much for joining us, Shiran.
Pleasure being with you.
That was the economist and LMB columnist Shiran Fernando. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.